So if your contention is that what I've just presented, that the Israel is the church in its infancy, the church is Israel, kind of consummated in Christ, through His promises, same cohesive people. If that sounds like if that sounds to somebody's ears like I'm saying that the church has replaced Israel, I think the question is replaced them from what? And that's a really important one that I don't hear emphasized a lot in these sort of discourses, because I think the assumption is that Israel, and I'm thinking Old Testament Israel, um, I think the assumption for a lot of those who would make that case is that Israel was somehow inherently God's people by dint of their nationality. And I would just plead with people, consider what God repeatedly, Old and New Testament, says made Israel Israel. Israel was always, always a people God called by covenant who loved God and loved His Son. Old and New Testament, that's what made Israel a people. And you know this because oftentimes throughout Israel's history in the Old Testament, there were those who did not, in fact, love God, and they were kicked out of the congregation. They were called not Israel. They were called covenant breakers. It was always the fact that there was a God. He made a people where there was no people. This is what He tells Abraham. Hey, I made you out of nothing. Like I called you guys to myself. And I know who you are because you're going to respond in faith. You're going to actually love me. Jesus picks up on this in the New Testament. I think it's at the end of John chapter 8, where He's speaking with some of the Jewish leaders and the scribes. They're having one of their frequent interactions with Him, and they say, "How dare you impugn us? We're Abraham's children." And Jesus very pointedly says, "You're not Abraham's children, because if you were, you would love the coming of Christ, because Abraham loved God, which means he loves Christ, which means you would love me, and yet you're seeking to kill me." It's always been the people who love God, and we know those who truly love God because they love the coming of His Son. If they don't love the coming of His Son, they weren't actually part of that covenant people.